So we're going to highlight 3 of these stories that we've done. These are real stories. We've not given the names just for a security standpoint, or we don't want to share all the private information, but we did want to kind of highlight some different examples. And this will highlight some of those different engagement models as well. The first one we'll share is a major public university. It's one that I'm sure everybody has heard of, and they are in your bracket that you have to have filled out between now and I think Thursday or Wednesday. But it is a major public university that wanted to come in and modernize their platform, obviously get up on the latest and greatest, but start taking advantage of that, streamlining data access, empowering their teams. They have lots of different teams within the new universities that are using the capabilities within them, and they want to continue to extend that. So for this one, we did do a lot of the evaluation at the beginning. They were a little bit more what we would consider a mid-scale. We have some clients who have tens of thousands of reports. This was definitely not one of those, but they did have a large number of reports. We would consider them more mid-scale, and some complex applications that we had to kind of look at as well. Again, a lot of different domains using these things, so we had to kind of look at the relationship there. Limited internal resources, so they do have some people that could work these, but we certainly wanted to be going along with them with this project to help it get done in a timely manner. So the solution was a 2 or 4 week engagement. From our side, it was a little bit longer on their side again, as they kind of took ownership of these things. But again, this was more of that middle of the road where we did the initial assessment, the initial planning, scoping of it, chose a couple domains, and then decided to, worked with their team on what we did there and documented and did knowledge transfer there. And then they took it from there. And then, of course, we kind of helped along the way, or continue to as well. So again, a little bit more holistic approach, but definitely one that has gone really well there. And as you can see, an impactful results gives them that ability to be able to kind of have some experience using the platform. So some of the people who were not as involved before, after going through those exercises of doing the upgrade with us, was able to get more experience in it. So very, very impactful there. You can see here from key actions and conducted a thorough review of the existing WebFOCUS footprint. You'll see this term, we kind of have changed it some of these slides, some other that utilize flux capacitor. If you see that, that is I would say it's a very nerdy term for any Back to the Future plans. Fans, you'll understand that. I am one of them. Although I did not name this one. This is one that came from a developer a while back. And so the flux capacitor tool, which we'll actually go here in a little bit more detail in a few minutes, it is basically a code assessment tool. It'll allow us to take all the code that you have within your platform that you're wanting to upgrade and migrate, and give you a scoping for what that's going to look like to do it. So it finds some things that we already know about it. So with that, we were able to do a very targeted installation and migration for just the reports that they were needing, and knowing they wanted to continue to support moving in the future. Executed an end-to-end remediation for key applications. Again, I think the key word is their key. And then they took it from there and did a lot of the other ones. And they even had some of their business users do some of the testing and changes along the way as well. I will remember this one. This one did not have, they were very much, there were some custom things that we helped them fix at the beginning, but most of the reports and things were created in the GUI. So not a whole lot of remediation there for them, which is what we're seeing more and more of. But definitely they were able to take on that with us as well, and kind of a split the job here. So an easy one for us to do, I think, again, because they had used so much of the GUI besides some of the things that we had to work with custom at the very beginning. But one that we were able to, again, work hand in hand to make sure that they did this. And another similar one we did is with a food service leader here in the US. They do a lot of different things, which I will not go into, but distribution, managing complex supply chains. These guys were actually a web query customer, and some of you guys might not know what that is, but that is an IBM DB2 product that kind of wrapped WebFOCUS inside of their iSeries product, and was deployed where they could report directly against that. That tool itself is going end of life, and so a lot of those clients are moving over to WebFOCUS because that's what the platform is, and it's an easy transition. So, and we've done a few of those ourselves to kind of help with that. But it was a large-scale migration from web query to WebFOCUS, very similar to doing just a regular upgrade. But there are some differences in it that we had to handle. Complex reporting environments with numerous custom reports. And anytime you see custom reports, again, it's not a bad word, not overly scary, but that is typically where we'll see a lot of the focus, especially if it's custom HTML launch pages that have been developed. And obviously they wanted to do this with as little of disruption and to their current environment and then getting their users on and managing it as quickly as possible, especially since they were kind of moving from a web query, which is WebFOCUS behind the scenes, to a new product. Adoption was a key part to it to them. This was a little bit longer engagement for us, 6 weeks, 1 week to do installation, 5 weeks for the migration. We used a team of 3 offshore WebFOCUS developers and an onshore engagement manager. Geetha, who does, I don't know how many of these she's done, but she is phenomenal working with teams on these things and knows exactly how to run these teams to get these done very efficiently. And we highlight offshore. We do have onshore and offshore resources, and I think Dax may even mention here in a minute, some of the different resources we have, even besides WebFOCUS developers, that can help with these projects as well when needed. Typically, you're only going to need, a WebFOCUS developer or 2, and then maybe an engagement manager to help manage the project part-time. But again, you can kind of see there the mix of people in this one was a little bit more because it was a little bit more large-scale effort. So we handled installation, migration, and of course remediation for a custom set of areas, and then their team took it on from there, much like our first example. Key actions, again, we've talked about install, migrated, and remediated critical reports. We documented that process, did some hands-on mentoring, and then they kind of took it from there and supported them moving forward. So as you can see from these first 2 examples, it's very common. We probably see way more of that than we do the first option. It's probably pretty evenly split between people wanting to take this approach and the full-scale approach that we work with. Either they want us to kind of help get started and help their team move it from there, or they want us to kind of take over. But again, we have a number of clients that are doing the first one as well, just as help us get started and support us on the way. We just aren't typically as involved as heavily in those after it gets going. Third one that we'll go through here pretty quickly because I know my time is going. We are also, and this one's actually still going. It's a major retail company, again, and one that probably everybody on here would know. They are moving from 8.0 to 9.3, and obviously that's a decent jump. And so there's a lot of considerations there that we had to take, especially with a very large scale upgrade. Modernizing security. Security has grown. There's a lot of new options and new availability for different ways of doing security in 9.3 versus 8.0. So we helped them look at that. Of course, reporting, and they had 155 domains. Again, a very large company who had distributed and distribution warehouses and stores and corporate. They had them a little bit everywhere. So working with them on this has been a lot of fun. We're continuing to finish up on this. This one is one, again, where we are, for the most part, doing a full scale. I don't know if I would classically call it full scale because their team is involved as well, but we are taking on primary ownership of this on a time and materials basis until it gets done. So end-to-end upgrade and migration project. We do have different resources on this just because there are some things like the security pieces that we had to handle or working with them through, and then of course a little bit more project managed since this is a larger scale one. But still very similar in approach to the other ones, except for we're taking on more of the ownership. So again, different approaches. What we typically do in these first ones in the workshop, and we'll talk about this in a minute, with you guys to kind of get an understanding of what resources you have, what you want your involvement to be, what you need help with, where the gaps are, and we can help you kind of find the right fit for you. But I will say again, a lot of lessons we learned from these. One thing that we have done is over the times we've almost turned this into a framework for us because we've done so many of these that we truly know how to get through these things very efficiently and quickly. We talked about that. I won't go into those, just the key things. So poll question number 2. Let me bring it up real quick. Back. All right, so what are the largest impediments to getting this migration completed for you guys? And again, we appreciate the feedback on these. This helps us. We're, as we continue to do these, we want to be able to key in more and more to what you guys are actually seeing and wanting. So definitely just don't understand what needs to be moved. Complexity, it's a big one. Volume. As you can see in our last retail one, there was a lot of volume there too, but we do have a lot of people that have shocking amounts. And we'll talk a little bit about how we kind of address that as well. Time and resources, testing application. So all right, So let's, for time's sake, go ahead and end this one. And complexity of environments, again, that's not uncommon. I would say time and resources is another one that we see a lot of, but obviously that's some of the ones that we get involved in because we help with that issue, volume and number of procedures. So very good. Oh, am I sharing results? So everybody else can see. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, again, I think the complexity of these environments is different for everybody, and something that we can help you kind of sort through as we go through. All right, some common themes that we've seen from this, and I wanted to bring Dax on as well. Again, as I mentioned before, Dax has done a lot of these and has led a lot of these projects along with Geetha, but he's over-delivered for this. So he'll have some insight from this and probably a few things he wants to add. But I'll kind of outline some things that we see a lot in all these. Tailored solutions at every scale and need. So definitely everybody has their own deployment of these things. They have different way of doing it. So we definitely see that. Everybody wants minimum disruption and quick adoption from their users. They don't want to have to retrain them to do everything, and they need it to look as painless as possible from one environment to the next, which again, working with you guys at the beginning, we always have a good plan that addresses that. Quick and targeted. We'll talk again about that tool that we use that definitely helps us to target which ones we know we're going to have issues with. And we'll talk about that in a minute, why. But also being able to do a good inventory check at the beginning to make sure that we're only bringing over things that you want to bring over and that you need to bring over, so we can hopefully manage that, maybe scale down some of the code that you're supporting, or even consolidate that, which is our next one, consolidating, maybe multiple reports that are just using different parameters, being able to consolidate those into one report where you can give them some options on how they want to run it instead of supporting, 15 different reports. We've had some clients that we've come into these for, and they literally had hundreds of reports for the same thing. And so we came in and consolidated, over 100 reports into one ad hoc query, which WebFOCUS has been so good at over the years. We do hope to focus on modernization. We'll end with that, so I won't go into that, but a lot of the people that we talk to are looking, how do we take advantage of these things? And then having the efficiencies is huge. Having a framework and processes that we've used has really helped to make sure that we can be very efficient on how we get these done and make it as painless for everybody as possible. So Dax, with that being said, I want to give you a couple minutes to be able to kind of, from the stories that we had, about any stories or experiences you wanted to kind of bring up.
Yeah, I mean, so we have pretty much covered everything from the project specific, for all three projects. I want to quickly highlight the breadth of resource types that are available, right? So we are well equipped to run this as a pure onshore initiative, or a hybrid initiative, or an offshore initiative. And as far as the complexities are concerned, so like what Tim was saying before, we have done this over and over several times, of varying complexity, that, we understand what it takes to reach the finish line. And, as far as the resource types are concerned, I just want to highlight the other types of resources that can also be made available, not just the developers and the coordinators and the project managers. We can have a security expert from our side, involving in discussions with you to make sure that the security is also upgraded, and it's as good as your code base, number one. And if it requires a restructure of how the WebFOCUS is being utilized now, we can bring in a WebFOCUS architect, and who can work closely with you. And like many customers are doing now, if the focus is towards having your WebFOCUS instance in your cloud of choice, we can work closely with you on that, and we can bring in the cloud experts from our side who will help you with the instance installation, configuration, all the way to the having the new WebFOCUS instance up and running with the new code base. That's what I want to highlight, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to hear the flexibility of the services and the expertise that we can bring here. Tim, I'll pass it back to you.
No, and that's a great point to bring up again, because we have had some that said, hey, we're part of our initiatives right now is to go to the cloud. So why would we upgrade this to an on-premise environment and then start looking at it to be a cloud? Why don't we just get all that done at once in one project? and save double the work. Now, I wouldn't say explicitly double the work, but definitely more work to do both things and do them at once. So certainly, if those are things that you're looking at, that's something that we would talk about during the first conversation or two, just so we again can help you plan and figure out how the best way to do that is. As Dak said, we've done a number of those, so he'll bring out those questions even more so in those conversations from his experiences and other resources